Osterhaus?
Here.
Commissioner Ashcraft?
Here.
Commissioner Brown?
Here.
Chairman Eilert?
Here. All are present. We do have a quorum. Would you join with me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. For those who are in attendance, if you have a noise-making device, ask that you turn it to silent mode or off so as not to interfere with our electronic communications. We do not have any presentations to make this morning, but I do want to take note of some young people that we have with us this morning. Today is Take Your Daughters and Sons to Work Day. I'm told this is about the 25th year of this program, and it happens across the nation in city halls, in businesses, and wherever individuals are employed. So it's a great opportunity for our young people, our children, to gain some understanding of what mom or dad does all day long, or wherever their jobs take them. And I want to mention Donna Vieira and Annette Whedon from DTI, who are coordinated a program for their daughters and sons. And so those who are present, would you stand up that we could recognize you? Don't be bashful. Yeah. All right, glad you're here. Well, thank you for taking time to be with us today, and if the meeting gets a little boring, you can leave anytime you want. So, however, it's never boring. So, thank you very much. With that, we'll turn to the public comment portion of our agenda. If there's anyone present who would like to address the Commission on an item which does not later appear on the agenda, would invite you to the podium, state your name and address, limit your comments to 5 minutes, and we'll be glad to receive that information. Is there anyone to be heard this morning? All right, if not, that concludes the public comment portion of our agenda. I do have one note for the record this morning. I will be signing Attachment C, certification of non-federal match form for the Department of Health and Environment for the quarter January through March 2018 for outreach, prevention, and early intervention services. Concluding notes for the record, we'll move through the consent agenda. Would the clerk please read the proposed consent agenda items?
Item number 1, consider approving the April 5th, 2018 business session minutes. Item number 2, consider authorizing the reclassification of mental health reserves in the amount of $75,000 for additional transportation services.
Is there anyone who would like to have one of those items considered separately? Is there anyone present who would like to have an item considered separately? If not, it's back before the Commission. Mr. Osterhaus.
Move that we approve the consent agenda as read.
Second. Motion's made and seconded to approve the consent agenda as presented. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Schaefer?
Aye.
Commissioner Allen?
Aye.
Commissioner Klicka?
Aye.
Commissioner Osterhaus?
Aye.
Commissioner Ashcraft?
Yes.
Commissioner Brown?
Aye.
Chairman Eilert?
Aye. Motion carried. Moving to the action agenda, item number 3.
Resolution number 019-18. Consider City of Olathe application numbers RZ17-020 and P-17-076, a request for rezoning from County RUR, Rural to City R-1, Residential District, and for a preliminary plat for single-family residential development on about 19 acres to be known as Humpford Second Plat in the vicinity of 144th Street and Lakeshore Drive, Olathe, Kansas.
Planning Department, Mr. Lipsig.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission. Jay Leipzig, Planning Development Codes Director. This item is brought before you on behalf of the City of Olathe. It was presented for the City of Olathe on February 20th, 2018. It was approved by the Airport Commission on March 28, 2018, unanimously. It's brought before you because it is within 1 mile of the New Century Airport. The property is also compatible with the New Century Airport Comprehensive Compatibility Plan, and staff is also recommending approval.
Okay, just for information, the reason this comes before us is because of the proximity to the airport. Is that right?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. And it's been approved by Olathe, et cetera.
Yes.
All parties involved. Okay. Any questions? Is there anyone present who would like to address the Commission on this item? If not, it's back before the Commission. Mr. Brown.
Thank you, Chairman. I move that resolution number 019-18 be adopted, approving City of Olathe application numbers RZ-17-020 and P-17-076 for the reasons and subject to the stipulations set forth in the resolution.
Second.
Motion is made and seconded to approve the resolution as noted. Any further questions or discussion? There being none, clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Aye.
Commissioner Allen?
Aye.
Commissioner Klicka?
Aye.
Commissioner Osterhaus?
Aye.
Commissioner Ashcraft?
Yes.
Commissioner Brown?
Aye.
Chairman Eilert?
Aye. Motion carried. Next item.
Item number 4, resolution number 018-18. Consider City of Gardner application numbers Z-18-01, PDP-18-01, and PP-18-01, request for rezoning of about 33 acres from RP-2, planned two-family residential, to RP-3, planned garden apartment, and RP-4, planned mixed density neighborhood district and preliminary development plan and preliminary plat for single-family, two-family, and four-family residential uses to be known as cottages at University Park in the vicinity of Blair Drive and Gretna Street, Gardner, Kansas.
Jay.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission. Jay Leipzig.
Can you
Planning
do
Development
something
Codes
with the
Director.
mic, or?
I'm sorry. Is that better? There we go. Jay Leipzig, Planning Development and Codes Director. This item was approved by the City of Gardner unanimously. It was approved by the Airport Commission on March 28, 2018. It's also compatible with the New Century Airport Comprehensive Compatibility Plan. Staff is also recommending approval. And this item is brought before you because it is within 1 mile of the New Century Airport. It's a multi-faceted residential project, including duplex uses as well as up to fourplexes for a total of 160 units. And as I said, staff is also recommending approval.
Okay, thank you. Questions? Mr. Allen.
Jay, just one quick question. I'd just like to verify that since it's in a flight pattern, when these lots are subdivided, is going to be a notation that they're in a flight pattern for the airport?
Yes, that is correct. That's one of the stipulations.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Is there anyone present who would like to address the Commission on this item? Being no one to be heard, it's back before the Commission. A motion is in order. Mr. Brown.
Thank you, Chairman. I move that resolution number 018-18 be adopted, approving City of Gardner application numbers Z-18-01, PDP-18-01, and PP-18-01 for the reasons and subject to the stipulations set forth in the resolution.
Second.
Motion is made and seconded to approve the resolution and the applications as noted and recommended. Is there any further discussion? There being none, clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Aye.
Commissioner Allen?
Aye.
Commissioner Klicka?
Aye.
Commissioner Osterhaus?
Aye.
Commissioner Ashcraft?
Yes.
Commissioner Brown?
Aye.
Chairman Eilert?
Aye. Motion carried. Are there any other items on the action agenda?
No, sir.
All right, moving to reports and communications. Interim County Manager, Ms. Postoke Ferguson.
Thank you. Chairman and Commissioners, you have two items before you. First one is City of Overland Park will hold a public hearing on June 4th, 2018 at 7:30 concerning the adoption of the redevelopment project plan within Metcalf Crossing Redevelopment District. This may look familiar to you as we've discussed it over the last few weeks, but they've given us official notice by resolution, so we're forwarding this on to you for the actual time of the public hearing. And also the second item is related to the consent item you just passed. I will ask Tanner Fortney to come forward from Mental Health to introduce a video that is related to that item, but it's kind of a good news story so that you can see this program in action. Tanner, do you want to do a highlight and then cue the video, please?
Okay. Tanner Fortney, Mental Health. As you're all familiar, we have a partnership that we began last year with United Healthcare for transportation services, and you just approved an item related to another pilot that we were working on. But UHC has created this short video, it's only about a minute and a half, to really kind of highlight the program and kind of give from a consumer driver's perspective some of the real benefits that our clients have been gaining. So with that, we'll roll the video.
This is my schedule. I give every day. I have a routine every day. My first ride is always the same.
Social determinants of health are all of the contributing factors outside of your health that contribute to your health. And one of the challenges that we see across the state of Kansas is transportation.
Hi, Tyler.
We created this transportation program that really relies upon our clients themselves working as drivers and then getting other clients to their employment.
Have a great day, Tyler.
What the great thing about the clientele is they appreciate that it's a peer driving them. We understand where that person's coming from. They tend to trust us. They're open with us. We're open with them.
I like it because it's therapy for me. It's just gets me out into the community and gets me interacting with the clients as well as me being a client. It just helps me feel better about myself.
We have entered in this partnership with United Healthcare to expand it and evaluate this peer transportation service. I think what we'll find is that if people are employed, they're going to become more engaged in their health care, and we really begin to see true recovery then.
It's a good system and a good service.
Thank you, Tanner. That shows a creativity in the partnership that really makes this program even more effective. And so we wanted to highlight that for you all. And the items that are next on the report section, we have the citizen survey results up next, but I wanted to let you know Chris Tatham's not quite here. So, Chairman, if you're willing, we would like the next report to be C on your agenda, the IT purchasing and centralization report.
Well, let me ask you this on the previous item, and Tanner, maybe you can answer this. The total number of clients that are impacted or involved in this transportation effort, do you have that information?
Well, as far as the United Healthcare piece, it's been relatively small. It's kind of fluctuating right now between about 5 and 15. They actually identified additional clients for that. But as far as our overall transportation program, we have anywhere from about 400 to 500 people in any given time that are using our transportation services, as well as about 54 clients from JCDS that we also provide rides to.
Okay, and the other transportation services beyond the United Healthcare opportunity is public transit as well as other forms?
Yes.
And that would include?
Well, as far as the type of rides we give, is that what you're asking?
Right.
Yeah, we give rides in addition to, our primary rides are to places of employment and rides to school. Those are the two primary pieces. We do give some rides under our normal program for people that are not eligible for Medicaid, but they need rides to medical appointments and things of that nature. But with the UHC clients, that pilot, actually, they are paying us to actually give rides to Medicaid clients in lieu of what's called Logisticare, which provides those rides normally, because they believe that the program that we have instituted is a superior form of transportation rather than using the current Medicaid tools that they use.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we'll wait on Mr. entertain him to be with us. The next item, you suggested the IT.
Yes, and
Okay.
if I could introduce that while Michael comes forward, Chairman, you may recall at the Audit Committee about 30 days, a little over 30 days ago, we discussed the IT plan that was presented, and you requested as the board to have a plan come back within 30 days. The team has worked hard to be able to accomplish that. Michael will highlight those results. I wanted to thank Joe Waters and Michael Aldridge and the various members that have worked on this. It took a lot of focus, and they'll give an update today. Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. I appreciate the opportunity to be here and give you an update on the great work we've done over the last 30 days. I wanted to start with a little bit of context. Last month, the Audit Committee met, and during that presentation, the committee asked that we bring back an accelerated plan around the centralization of IT purchasing. We initially had begun with about a 2 to 3 year plan, and you asked that we bring back an accelerated plan. That's one of the two verticals I'll talk through today. The other related to the provisioning of IT across the county. And what I mean by provisioning is how information and technology is delivered countywide. So again, be talking through two plans, and you'll see here on the next slide there's a lot of interdependencies. Actually, I apologize, slide after this. First, if I can add on to what Penny said, we did pull a diverse group of people together that work with us in putting these two plans together, and I just wanted to recognize them. A fair amount of time and effort went into this, and we kept top of mind the concerns we heard from all of you as we worked on these plans. So again, my thanks to the staff that were included in that. So the multifaceted recommendation, again, for the two plans, we found there's a good many interdependencies between these two plans, and I'm going to highlight them here, and then I'm going to talk about them in a little bit more detail as we work through the following 10 slides. Again, we kept cybersecurity top of mind as we evaluated what we thought would be the most reasonable approach for the county. One of the other basic tenets you'll see in these plans is coordination and collaboration, an increase of both across the county. We also believe there will be instances where there is a need and it's appropriate for more IT centralization. It's foundational that we establish countywide IT policies, and that's something that we will need more board support down the road, and I'll talk more about that. And lastly, I'd be remiss if I didn't recognize that a lot of work has been done over the last several years that has really matured the IT operations. The point I'm trying to make is we certainly have areas that we can strengthen our service delivery, but we really are building off the work that's been done over the last 2 years. So the first plan I'm going to talk through is the accelerated plan around centralized IT purchasing. And again, I'll remind you that initially we had about a 2 to 3 year plan, and we've compressed this down to more like 18 months. You also asked that we include funding and what it would cost to accelerate that plan. I'll be talking about that as well. But essentially, we've broken this into 3 phases. Again, it's going to be foundational that we establish the policies. Those policies will give clarity to what is expected of the IT shops operating in the county. That's where we will establish the standards as it relates to equipment, one of the things we talked about in a little more detail in the audit committee meeting. Also in that early phase, we envision creating an architecture committee. And this committee, work has already been begun, but this committee will be charged with establishing standards for our technology, again, across the county. So the various IT groups would begin buying the same equipment and collaborating so we leverage our size for better buying power. In the second phase, third quarter of this year, again, if the budget is approved, we envision hiring an additional 2 staff, and that's where we get to the acceleration of these strategies. It's also during that time that we will initiate a consolidation of our IT assets such that we have visibility countywide into our technology investments. Also, again, in that third quarter is when we are projecting to have the architecture committee's recommendations finalized, and that will go through the IT governance. And then lastly, in 2019, we imagine rolling this out more broadly. Pause and see if there are questions thus far.
Okay.
Excellent. Again, you asked that we bring back the cost to accelerate. These are on the slide in front of you here, and these numbers are included in the county manager's budget that you'll be looking at this afternoon. It is our intention, if approved, to hire these positions earlier. In other words, we're talking about the FY19 budget. With your blessing today, we'll be asking to fund these positions earlier, again in the spirit of acceleration. The second plan I'm going to talk through in a little bit more detail relates to the provisioning of IT, again, how information technology is delivered countywide. We'll start with a current state. And this slide represents, we visited with Human Resources, and we have procedures by which we evaluate work that's done at the county. And so by HR standards, each of the departments listed on the slide in front of you have IT staff. And that comes with a caveat, if you couldn't tell from my tone. We recognize that likely not all of these people are really doing pure IT work. An evaluation process has to occur. In other words, it would not be prudent for us to say, great, you're all IT people because HR said so. An evaluation is going to be important. Something else that's worth noting, as we do those evaluations, we're going to have to do them thoughtfully. We can't erode trust as we go through this process, lest that will create all kinds of friction for us down the road, which is a good segue into lessons learned previously. We've done this before, and we've had success with each of these, but we want to not lose track of what we've learned. And a few things worth highlighting. We recognize that as we go in and do the evaluations, that some of the staff should certainly remain in the business unit, reporting to functional managers as opposed to reporting to a technical manager. We would imagine that some staff will continue reporting in the business unit. However, staff performing more traditional IT work, we think in some cases it will be logical for them to begin reporting to DTI or GIMS, one of the other IT shops. Again, during the evaluation, we imagine starting with what the business needs are. How can we make sure we're meeting the business unit needs? No questions. A little bit more detail here on the work plan. Again, this relates to the evaluation process. So April to June, first phase, will be, with your blessing, bringing the policies back for your approval. We will also form the evaluation team. Again, this will be the team of people that will go out, visit with the departments, the business units that have IT staff. We'll also get a good handle on the current state. We're going to be looking at the technology inventory. We're going to be looking at budgets, tech funding. We're also going to assemble a schedule that will dictate the evaluation process, and we intend to focus on the areas where we think there's the greatest risk first, and work down the list. Those evaluations will begin then in the second phase, July through December, where we imagine completing the evaluations. We also believe during that time frame we can create a recommended new IT structure and develop a plan for rolling out that structure. Importantly, then in 2019 is when we would execute the plan. And something I'd like to call your attention to, really there's 2 points. We talked about the IT policies and the procedures. Again, that will come back before the board. There's another piece to that, and you'll see it on a future slide. Those are the procedures and the practices. And what that means, it gets more granular, more detailed as you work down or up, depending on which way you're looking at the slide. But the processes and the practices, gentlemen, is where the departments that have IT staff doing the work, they have some flexibility as to how they actually execute the work. But the North Star are the policies that would be approved by you. And that's where we get the consistency countywide. The beauty of this is it does give some latitude to the departments. And it's important to note that we imagine that will take about a year, frankly, for them to evolve these processes. And many of the departments have already started this, including DTI, I think GIMS, Parks, Library, fair to say as well. So it's not as though we're starting from ground zero, but it is like turning a large ship, so it will take some time. Lastly, but very importantly, beginning in about third quarter of 19, we'll begin the technical risk assessments. And what I mean by that is we envision, and this again is represented in the manager's budget, beginning to do regular IT risk assessments. And this again would be county-wide. This will give us visibility into how those IT departments are performing the work. Again, is it consistent with the newly implemented IT policies that would be set by the board? I'm going to pause here. A lot of data I've thrown at you. Any questions thus far, gentlemen? Very good. So, future state, I'd like to try to tie it all together here. We've talked about the foundation that will be established with the policies. The processes and practices, again, will be developed or refined by each of the IT groups. Future state, we imagine there will be fewer autonomous IT groups within the county. Again, the evaluation team will look at those and make recommendations. Governance and programs and risk will continue to be vitally important. Where we're going to land, gentlemen, again, is coordination and collaboration, an increase of that across the county, a consolidated inventory, standardized architecture, and the recurring IT assessments. I want to talk here a little bit more detailed about what the collaboration looks like. It sounds like a great word. Give me some specifics, Commissioner Ashcraft, you might be thinking. Each of the IT shops have agreed or will agree to a standardized architecture and a replacement schedule. And just to bring that down a level lower, currently in our environment, we have a good diversity of computers. Over time, we want that to shrink. We want fewer computers for us to try to support. We've also talked to Jim's Parks Library about collaborating more on our purchasing so we can leverage our size and achieve greater pricing. And lastly, again, the recurring risk assessments are really going to be important to the visibility. So the team that worked on this, and I think fair to say county manager's office, feels strongly, I certainly feel strongly, that this is a good step for us to strengthen our cybersecurity program at the county. I think we will find efficiencies, and I think we will find savings as well. So the next steps, if the board is supportive of these plans, the staff will be bringing those policies back before you for your approval. That's a key first step. We will also accelerate the centralized IT purchasing plan. We will kick off the IT evaluations. Those evaluations, again, will result in a more unified IT structure and increased coordination, again, across the county. We envision providing regular updates back to you at a minimum every 3 to 6 months. Questions do you have for me, gentlemen?
Mr. Aldridge, let me ask you this. There's no specific reference, but I'm sure it's included. When it comes to system security, it's not only software, but it's also those of us who use the systems. And so I'm assuming there's a good element of training or retraining, whatever you want to call it, that we don't open an unknown email and expose the system to some type of action. But there was nothing specific, but I'm assuming that kind of activity is inherent in the
Yes, sir, it is. And that's already happening. Many of the IT shops are already doing that. We did that countywide this year, but frankly, we're refining that. And this also is in the budget for us to improve the security awareness training countywide. And I'm pleased to say that we're working with, again, the other IT shops to collaborate rather than solving the same problem 4 or 5 times.
Okay, thank
Great
you,
question.
Mr. Brown.
Thank you, Chairman. I just wanted to comment, having heard the presentation from Joe through the county manager's office and then listened to Mr. Aldridge, I would say that given the scope of what they've accomplished and what they've set forward to do and the process to do it is pretty remarkable, given that they pulled that all together in 30 days and while everybody was still doing their other job. So I'm impressed with what they've accomplished here, what the plan looks like, and I'm ready to make a motion on it when it's appropriate. Thank you, Chairman.
Okay. Well, sure. I don't know that there's a specific action that needs to be taken this morning. Is there?
We would recommend acceptance of the plan so that we can put things in motion and move forward.
Okay. All right. Mr. Klicka.
I'll go ahead and second that, but I'll make a comment to the staff. I know this was a serious conversation we had during work session and follow-up, And I too, want to echo what Commissioner Brown has said. We appreciate you taking this serious and getting on it and doing it as quick as you did. And I'd like to extend, I know to the other agencies out there that are participating, that my appreciation also of their engagement and getting in line on this program. So, thank you.
Mr. Ashcraft.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Aldrich, since you took the opportunity to call me out on this, I didn't have one question, which we discussed briefly yesterday with Mr. Waters. So I want to make sure it's fully understood, because when we had the audit committee meeting, Commissioner Allen raised this issue, and I think it's a valid issue. And my question is in no way meant to diminish your efforts. I agree, you have done a lot of work. You've packaged it very nicely, and I appreciate that. But in the recent 6 months or so, there have been a number of high visibility governmental hacks, ransom hacks. Atlanta comes to mind, and I think there have been several. Those hack opportunities, I'm not sure that's exactly the right way you would phrase it, but those hack attacks, if that would be more appropriate, come from a variety of sources and are constantly a threat. I want to make sure, though, that this effort gets to the core issue, because as you listed on the slide 9, the many departments there, their sophistication and ability to deal with very, very elaborate hacking opportunities varies. And the hope is that by, and I'll say centralizing, I hope that's not viewed as a negative connotation, but by creating a unified, well-fortified, well-managed core, we can protect against most, if not all of those. And maybe I'm overstating that because it's a dynamic environment, but I hope this goes that far, and that we aren't making allowances because there are certain historical sensitivities. Well, we've always done it ourselves on our own, and therefore we don't want to be part of the greater good and the greater defense. So I hope you can give us that assurance. And Mr. Allen, if I'm misstating what some of your concerns were, I apologize, but having watched what happened to Atlanta and the rigmarole they've been through, I just don't want Johnson County to be anywhere near that. So,
well, Commissioner, I appreciate your comments, and I'm going to attempt to respond to them in a couple ways. One, I applaud the recognition of the importance of this topic to all of you, and the fact that we're having these conversations is a big step in the right direction, and I mean that in all sincerity. I've worked in a good many organizations where executive awareness of this importance is lacking, and that's clearly not here. So the fact that we're having the conversations today, and I do, as I mentioned during the presentation, we'll need your continued support going forward. That's as important, if not more important, Mr. Chairman, than the security awareness training that you mentioned, is executive support. We set the stage for the entire county. Staff look to us, and so I appreciate that. So I won't linger there long. Commissioner Ashcraft, as it relates to are we doing enough, I think this is very appropriate as what I would say phase 2. Recall, we've been doing a good deal of work over the last few years. We've established IT governance, which to my knowledge has not existed at the county previously, where people, many of whom are sitting in the room, Jill and Beth and Tim, there's probably others, John Bartolak's in the back, Joe, we get together monthly and we put our Johnson County enterprise hats on and begin making decisions together. That's equally as important. So as it relates to phasing, yes, commissioners, I think this is the appropriate next step. Do I think we're complete? No. And if we're all here in 10 years, I'll be saying the same thing. We're not complete. There is no destination. It is a continual journey. And as you've heard me say before, in today's environment, it is not if someone attacks us or if they achieve some degree of success, it's when. And the policies, procedures, the standards that we're establishing will give us a higher degree of certainty that our staff are ready to respond, which is very important.
Mr. Allen?
Just a quick comment, Commissioner Ashcraft, and I do appreciate your question, but I also had a conference call with Michael and Joe yesterday, and after listening to the presentation, and I got the sense that there's pretty good buy-in across all departments, and I know the implementation, there'll be some possible hiccups along the way, but again, as Commissioner Brown mentioned, I'm very impressed the program that you have put together in a short period of time, and this is a critical issue for the county, and as more and more people move to mobile apps and do their business with the county, you have more people in your system. We just need to make sure that we have an overall infrastructure as good as it can be, and I think you're correct. This is a journey. There'll be something 2 or 3 years from now that's completely unknown that just got to be as prepared as you can. But again, congratulations. I think you guys did a great project in a short period of time.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I would second that, and I work with a private business who has clients across the country, a wide range of client information, and every meeting we have, security of the system is always at the top, and it's a continuous and ongoing effort to make sure that sensitive data is protected. So I think it's going to be the same as far as the county is concerned also. All right, if there's Mr. Ashcraft.
One follow-on, Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry. Mr. Aldridge, I am delighted to hear your discussion about the IT risk assessment. I just wanted to see if the auditor, the county auditor, will be involved in that effort and in what capacity.
Ken and I have not talked about that, but I'm certainly open to, and I'll take that action, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Brown, you have a motion to make?
I do. Thank you, Chairman. I move to approve the Information Technology Purchasing and Centralization Plan as proposed, with the acceleration of the purchasing component being subject to approval of the 2019 budget.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to accept the report as presented. Any further questions or discussion? Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Aye.
Commissioner Allen?
Aye.
Commissioner Klicka?
Aye.
Commissioner Osterhaus?
Aye.
Commissioner Ashcraft?
Yes.
Commissioner Brown?
Aye.
Chairman Eilert?
Aye. Motion carried. Thank you, Mr. Aldridge. Good job.
Thank you.
And now we're back to the community survey.
Yes, Chris Tatham is here, and as he comes forward, we have more great news to share about the satisfaction of our community. And Chris, I don't know if you're set up or if you need a minute here.
I think I'm all set.
I don't know if your microphone's on.
Is it working?
No.
Good. Right here, big one here. Good. All right. Well, it's great to be here. Chair and members of the board, I just wanted to share some good news that we found in this year's survey results, but also...
We haven't had an introduction,
Oh,
Chris,
there we go.
you personally.
Sure.
So you have been involved in assisting the county in these community surveys for how many years?
About 20 years.
20 years. And your organization does these surveys across the country, assisting various forms of public sector operations?
Yeah, we actually work with over 800 communities throughout the United States. We're now doing work in Ethiopia, Japan, India, and other places around the world. And really, we look at ourselves as being the experts to allow local government leaders to get input from residents that really reflects the interest of the average resident who probably doesn't have time to show up at public meetings but wants to be engaged in the process.
Well, thank you. You've done excellent work for, as you've indicated, many years, and congratulations on the success of your organization.
Well, thank you. I think each of you know that the main purpose for this year's survey, as it is every year, is to get input from residents in the community about how well you're providing services and what the priorities are. Each year we contact over 1,200 residents to ask them what they think about a wide variety of issues. And the reason we do that is that you look at today's public meeting, there aren't a lot of people here. In fact, we did a national survey a couple years ago, and we asked people whether or not they had attended a public meeting within the past year, and a whopping 4% of the people said yes. Number one reason they showed up is they wanted to get recognition for themselves or see somebody else get an award. Number two was they didn't like something you were doing. Number three, they wanted to change something that would benefit them. So as a result, you hear from special interests, which are an important group, but most of the people who are just going through their lives probably aren't going to have time to come to a meeting. So without a tool like this, you may not actually hear from the average resident. So it's one of many sources of information to use, but certainly an important one. As I indicated, this year's survey, we administered over 1,200 residents. The actual number was 1,429. So the data for each of the 6 districts is statistically valid and will provide breakdowns so you can actually see what your constituents think along with what the county perceptions are from everyone who lives in the community. The results aren't perfect. They have an accuracy of about plus or minus 2.6% at the 95% level of confidence. And that just means if you did the survey 100 times, you'd see the same results within about 3%, 95 times out of 100. So it's a pretty good indicator of what people think. And this map just shows where people live. And the little red dots are the general location of their homes. And as you can see, we have good representation from all areas of the county in proportion to the way the county's population is distributed. So all in all, we felt real good about the composition of the sample this year, geographically and demographically. It's also very consistent to what we've had in previous years. So for those reasons, we feel that the changes and the results that we found this year are representative of the community. So with that said, here's some of the things that we found. First thing, not a real surprise because it hasn't changed. The overall satisfaction with Johnson County is very high. In fact, it's not just high, it's among the highest in the entire nation. You're clearly in the top 5% of all counties when it comes with regard to their satisfaction with their community and their local government. You can see the real intensity of that perception based on the percentage of residents who give a 5 rating or an excellent rating, with over 60% rating this community as an excellent place to live and raise children, and almost no one giving negative ratings. In addition, when we see how the trends have changed, we thought when we first started doing the survey it couldn't get better. Well, there wasn't much room to get better, but you can see now as a place to live, 98% of residents think this is a good or excellent place to live, which is up 2%. It doesn't seem like a lot, but there wasn't much to go up. You're at 96% as a place to raise children and 89% as a place to work. So this is definitely a community that is probably going to continue to attract people from other areas, attract businesses from other areas, which is a very healthy indicator. In addition, the overall perceptions of the county, particularly those of the county government, are very, very strong. In fact, I want to highlight just a couple of things on this list. If you come to the 4th bar down, it's the overall quality of county services, and you can see 84% give positive ratings. Another 14% think things are okay. Only 2% gave negative ratings. So for every person out there that you hear from that thinks the county doesn't do a good job providing services, there's 41 people out there that would disagree with that. You're probably not going to hear from most of them, which is one of the reasons it's good to have this survey information. In addition, when it comes to value for taxes, if you look for the second from the bottom, you'll see 64% give positive ratings compared to just 9% negative. So again, a 7-to-1 ratio. So this county is definitely doing a lot of things right. In addition, we found that the county's ratings, if you just look at some of the trends, remain high, and the county's definitely moving in the right direction. You'll notice for all the county services that were assessed, the majority generally stayed the same or got better. I've highlighted those that had significant changes from last year, either with an arrow moving up as a significant increase or an arrow moving down as a significant decrease. You'll notice that the areas that went down a little bit were Johnson County Emergency Management, Stormwater, and County Human Services, but you'll see there were significant improvements in the library, the K-State Research and Extension and Research, the Johnson County Museums, the Sheriff's Office, Johnson County Health and Environment, Public Works, it's a long list to read, Johnson County Development Supports, Johnson County Planning and Inspections, and the Department of Corrections all showed significant improvement over last year. So definitely things are looking very good. In addition, when we look at how things have changed long-term, we have a composite index that takes all of the items that we assess for the county and kind of gives you a single number, kind of like a consumer price index, where 100 reflects the first year we did the survey, and the current number is at 103. That means compared to when we started, you've gone up 3 points. And we had a little blip, which was a strange year back when we had the recession back in 2009. But for the most part, we've seen pretty steady improvement since then. It's actually up 6 points if you go back to 2011. During that same period, you'll see the Kansas City Metro gone up a little bit, and the national average for large communities has actually gone down. So you've kind of gone against the trend nationally for large communities. So you're definitely doing something right. In addition, when we see how you stack up to other communities, this is really a cause celebration, but also the need to continue moving forward, because sometimes if you get all happy where you're at, you don't keep getting better or sustaining the levels you're at. And just look at how you rate compared to other large communities, which is in yellow, and the national average, which is in red. And this is based on a national survey we do about every 18 months. When it comes to this place to live, you're 44 points above the average for other large communities. That's not just a significant difference, that's a phenomenal difference. When it comes to a place to raise children, you're 46 points. When it comes to as a place to work, you're more than double what the other large community is at 89 to 44. And as a place to retire, which a lot of folks don't think typically Kansas is where I'd love to go retire. I go to Florida, Arizona, you're still outperforming other large communities by 25%. In addition, when it comes to satisfaction with perceptions and image of the county, I want to highlight just a couple of these because they're pretty much all in the double digits. But look at the overall quality of services provided. You're at 84%, as I mentioned before. National average for large communities is 45%, nearly double. And when it comes to the value for taxes, which if you work your way down to the second to the bottom, you're at 64% compared to 31%, which is more than double the national average for large communities. So you're definitely doing lots of things right. But with that said, there's definitely opportunities to continue moving things forward. And so one of the things that we did in the analysis here is not only do we ask people how satisfied they are with services, we also ask them, well, how important are those services? And the rationale is if everybody was dissatisfied with something, it might not, and nobody cared about it, they're probably not going to notice or actually might not want you to spend more money on that service. So what we're trying to look at is what do people really care about and what is your performance, and look at those two variables together to help identify ways to do better when it comes to overall satisfaction. You can see the top rated services overall, the top highest priorities are the sheriff's office, emergency medical, county parks, libraries. A lot of that has to do with usage. Some of the ones that are used more tend to be more important to more people. So when we do the analysis, we actually then also look at the satisfaction rating that folks gave. And the three items that rose to the top of the list as being the top opportunities for improvement, sheriff's office, human services, and mental health, followed by district courts and public works. But those are the things, if you focus on those over the next year or two, you'll probably see the best opportunity to improve overall satisfaction with county services. Just a couple other findings as we asked people whether or not it was important to provide safety net services to low-income families, and you can see the vast majority of people thought that was important. In fact, if you add it all up, you have almost 90% of the people at least thinking it's somewhat important. When we also asked them, what if state and federal funding for certain services were reduced, how would you support the use of additional county funds essentially to make up for some of those reductions? And you'll see the ones that people supported the most were mental health services, public health services, and aging programs. And you see there was general support across the board for everything. Even though public transportation is at the lowest end of the scale, you still had 72% of the people that would support additional funding for that if state and federal funding were reduced. So just to summarize things, a lot to be very happy with in this year's report. You are definitely one of the top performing communities in the country, particularly among counties. The desirability of this community is really almost second to none. Statistically, you're one of the top performing places in almost every area that we assessed. But in order to stay there, things like human services, things like health services, making sure people continue to feel safe are going to be very important in the years ahead. So I don't know if anyone has any questions, but that's just a highlight of the things that we found this year.
Well, thank you. Good good summary. I think it's worth noting that, this is not necessarily a reflection totally of the county, but we have many partners throughout the county, our cities, school districts, community college, and all of those activities, I think, contribute to this message, as well as our county employees who are out on the streets every day, so to speak, providing these services. I do have one question. Maybe it's for Penny rather than you, Chris, but this is the detail of this survey. Is it available online, or how would anybody who's interested in it get the full survey?
Yes, it is on our website.
It is on our website. Okay, thank you. Jason?
Chris, can we go back to slide 10? We've got some of our stormwater and our public works guys here today, and I just wanted to point out, we had I guess it's a little blip. It's not very high, but we had a reduction in our stormwater program and our emergency management communication. I thought it was important to note that we had 2 major rain and flooding, so I think that might have been on somebody's minds when they were taking the survey. Important to note. I didn't want our stormwater and public works guys to feel bad about that little blip there. So,
well, I thought it was also interesting that, as I recall last year, I forget the exact term, but something about emergency planning was in the top 3 items, and this time it didn't make the top 3. It's somewhere down the list, but so circumstances nationally or across the state, I think, where there's publicity about certain activities can make a difference sometimes.
Absolutely.
In how people respond. Yeah. Mr. Ashcraft.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Postoke-Ferguson, this is indeed good information, positive information. You and staff are to be commended. There are a couple of hints here in terms of potential areas of follow-up on the chart that was up here on slide 10, and then on slide 17, human services and mental health services. And I know we've got some things going on, but I'm just wondering how you will use this information to go forward, or will you have some kind of update on that? And I think some of this is at least reflected in your budget proposal, if I'm correct.
Absolutely. We had preliminary results as we were finalizing and putting together developing our budget. So yes, you will see that our budget proposal is in alignment with these 3 areas that were highlighted for the most return on satisfaction if we invested in those areas.
Very good. Thank you.
Any other questions? All right. Chris, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item is a legislative update. Mr. Otto.
Good morning, Aaron Otto with the County Manager's Office. Just have 3 little points to share with you as updates since last we had a legislative update. The first is one of your legislative priorities, and one of the top priorities for the county, was House Bill 2597. That was the Elections Commissioner's bill, changing where the HR and budget authority fell back to the county to fall in line with county policy. That was signed by Governor Coyer on April 18th and takes effect on July 1st. So that was a success story that we wanted to make sure we gave credit to our legislators and our delegation that helped push that issue forward. The second is the legislature did come back into session for veto session about 20 minutes ago. They're expected to be into an adjournment until May 4th, and they're starting off by looking at changes and tweaks to the budget. They did have a consensus estimating group meeting while they were adjourned. That group brought an estimated $217 million additional in this year's FY18 budget, and then another $316 million added in expected revenue in the 19 budget. Therefore, the governor submitted a couple budget amendments, partially to fund social services for this year. This is mandatory casework. That was about $41 million, and then next year another $68 million. The one other item that's kind of interesting to note, that Governor Coyer also put forward a budget amendment for CAPERS to try to reduce the expected deferred payment in FY19 by $82 million. Then that deferred payments will start being amortized and paid starting in FY20 to be paid back. But he took some of those newly found expected revenue dollars and put it towards lessening the deferment on the CAPERS payment. And that's about it. I'm sure Cindy will be back next week and have quite a bit to talk about as they try to wrap up the 2018 session.
Aaron, your comment about CAPERS reminded me, what was it, a couple of years ago, the state borrowed, I think it was $1 billion to put into the CAPERS program, i.e. in various investments. How do we find out what kind of performance they've had?
I've not heard anything recently, but I will do a little digging. I know exactly what you're talking about. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? All right, thank you very much. Are there any other items under the reports and communications? No. I think not. So we'll turn to...
She's texting.
And there you go. Here's none. We will turn to commission comments. Mr. Schaefer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Had two events. A number of us were at an event yesterday, the Hispanic Women in Johnson County event, so I'll let other people mention that as well, okay? But I also had an invitation and a chance to participate and go to the Labor Management Council of Greater Kansas City 19th Annual Awards and 39th Anniversary Dinner. I've gone to a number of these over the years. It was held last Saturday evening. Very enjoyable. The speaker was, and we all know her, Mindy Corporon. She talked about faith, her campaign, Faith Always Wins. So it was a good program, and I want to acknowledge that group for all the good work they do in the community. Thank you.
Mr. Clickham.
Nothing to report.
Mr. Ashcraft.
Nothing, sir.
Mr. Allen.
Yes, this morning we had several businesses downstairs that were recognized for their green ability and reducing waste, and had several innovative programs. Mr. Schaefer made some remarks, but there's several good programs in the county that are making a difference in some of the schools and teaching even our younger citizens the importance of recycling and reusing products. So it's a very nice program.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Ostraus.
Yeah, I got a few things. First, hiding behind our podium over there, we've got some students from Brighton Academy, which kind of up in the northern part of my district. So wanted to recognize them today. They're coming up to learn about county government. I went and spoke to the class, oh gosh, about 6 weeks ago, maybe 2 months ago, and that didn't deter them from coming up and still visiting. So thank you guys for coming. I'll echo the comments that Commissioner Schaefer made. Many of us showed up last night for the JOCO Latina Network. Recognized was one of our own county employees, the retiring manager of the Oak Park branch of libraries. And I may butcher this, but I'll try my best, Magali Bayaza. And she was, as I said, she ran our Oak Park branch of our libraries and did a lot with English as second language and a lot of the programs they have for Latinos in our area. So thank you to them for the invite. Wednesday, had the opportunity to go to a breakfast for Welcome House, which is a men's shelter for men suffering from addiction from drugs and alcohol. Ryan Leaf flew in. You might remember Ryan Leaf. He was a number 2 draft pick in the I forget what year it was, 1998, I believe, draft. But
Peyton Manning.
Yeah, with Peyton Manning beat him out. But had a lot of struggles with drugs and alcohol in his time in the NFL. And so he came and spoke about his sobriety and that path that he took and his kind of organization that he does for that. But a good opportunity for that group, Welcome House. Which leads into my last point, which is Saturday is April Drug Take Back Day. So if you've got extra drugs sitting around your house that you don't need anymore, you can go to the county's website, punch in your address, and it'll show you the closest drop-off point to where you're at. So little steps we can take to help as we talk a little bit about our opioid abuse and that sort of thing. So great things going on. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Brown.
Thank you, Chairman. I have a couple of items. The last Saturday, in the rain at Antioch Park. I attended, along with several commissioners and county manager staff, the grand opening for Dodgetown, and it was greatly attended. The weather held off. It was gray, it was cloudy. It held off right until the chairman walked up to the podium, and then they let go.
It rained on all the speeches.
It did. And then as soon as they were over,
done, the rain quit.
It stopped. So it was nice to be there. It was still a very successful grand opening. There were kids everywhere. It was amazing. People were lined up to get hot dogs and cookies, and it was very well attended, and very proud of it. It's a very nice setup, and it'll be loved for decades, as it has been in the past.
Very first rope cutting.
Very first attended rope cutting, and the chairman struggled with the rope cut. We need to sharpen the scissors.
They need sharper scissors next time.
Never been to a rope cutting.
Or a thinner rope.
Or a thinner rope. You got it. Also, just wanted to bring everybody's attention to, we're headed to May. Severe weather season is upon us. I have a very dear friend's goddaughter who lived on the southwest side of Lawrence, Kansas. And on May 8th of 2003, I got the call that her apartment was gone. I thought, well, I don't know what that means, but we'll go help. The next morning, we showed up. If you've never seen a big building take a direct hit from an F3 tornado, they were not kidding. It was gone. I brought a trailer. I brought 2 trucks. I brought my family and friends. We came to load everything up. Everything that she could find that was hers fit in the back of my pickup. So keep your loved ones close and the things that are important to you somewhere secure, because her personal documents were scattered across Douglas County. So just pay attention to the weather and what's going on around you. And then, I don't know that it had slipped by anybody, but I will just call it out. Today happens to be Penny Pearson's birthday. So, wanted to point that out to everybody.
Happy birthday. Congratulations.
39.
That's all, Chairman. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Well, I have one item. Just for the record, we do have a committee of the whole session scheduled for 1 p.m. today in this room, and we will receive the interim county manager's recommended budget for 2019 for discussion and review. With that, we do have a request for an executive session, duration of 20 minutes. That will follow the agenda review. Why don't we try that at 11 a.m.?
Okay. I would move that the board recess its open meeting and convene an executive session at approximately 11 a.m. for a period of 20 minutes for the purpose of receiving the advice of counsel and to preserve attorney-client privilege, and to reconvene an open session in this room at approximately 11:20 a.m. or as soon thereafter as the executive session may end.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve the request for the executive session as stated. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Schaefer?
Aye.
Commissioner Allen?
Aye.
Commissioner Klicka?
Aye.
Commissioner Osterhaus?
Aye.
Commissioner Ashcraft?
Yes.
Commissioner Brown?
Aye.
And Chairman Eilert.
Aye. Motion carried. So we are in recess from our from our regular business session. We will continue in recess and following the agenda review and the executive session, we will reconvene in open session. So thank you all very much, and we'll take a short break and come back for agenda review.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Check on that. My son is freaking out. But anyway,
Hey.
one. Don't you, Jason?
Following the 20-minute executive session, we reconvened into open session. We do have a motion for consideration. Mr. Klicka?
I move that the board direct staff to schedule a committee of the whole to review the finances of Johnson County Fire District Number 2 and discuss options for governance of the fire district.
Second.
Do we need a specific date?
Next week.
All right, so noted. We do have a second.
Motion.
We do have a second.
Yes.
You can hand the motion to the clerk. Any further questions or discussion? If not, clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Schaefer? Aye. Commissioner Allen?
Aye.
Commissioner Klicka?
Aye.
Commissioner Osterhaus?
Aye.
Commissioner Ashcraft?
Yes.
Commissioner Brown?
Aye.
And Chairman Eilert.
Aye. Motion carried. That concludes. There are no other business items to attend to. We are adjourned. We'll be back at 1 p.m. for committee of the whole meeting in regards to the budget. Thank you all.
Thank you.